All right, so today we are going to start lesson 6. And for lesson 6, you will need your computer for a rescheme in the later part of today. You don't need it right now, but we will need it by the end of class. So lesson 6 says, example, a rocket blasts off traveling, at 7 meters per second. Write a function called rocket height that takes in the number of seconds that have passed since the rocket took off and produces the height of the rocket at that time in meters. Okay, so letter A says, what is the rocket's height after 0 seconds? So if we look here, after 0 seconds, that would be 0 meters, which would be 7 times 0. What is the rocket's height after 1 second? So we have 7 times 1, which would be 7 meters. Okay. After 2 seconds, we're doing 7 times 2. So that would be 14 meters. After 3 seconds, 7 times 3 gives me 21 meters. After 4 seconds, 7 times 4 is 28 meters. And then after 5 seconds, we have 7 times 5, which gives me 35 meters. Okay, so letter G says mathematically, how can we compute the rocket's height after X seconds? So think my seconds were all of these numbers that we were multiplying by. So after X seconds, we would have 7 times X. Okay, so we're going to try to write a contract here. What is the name of this function? It told us to call it rocket height. Okay. The domain of this function, what we changed here was our second. So that was a number. And it produced another number, how high it was. Okay. So if we want to write the contract here, contract start with a semicolon. Our name is rocket height. Okay. Colon. Our domain is one number. Arrow. Our output is another number. So there's our contract. So letter L here says to give more information than is given in a contract, programmers write purpose statements, which are simple sentences that explain what a function does. Often, the purpose statement is just a restatement of the word problem. We will try a purpose statement for rocket height on the next page. So, here's our word problem. It says complete the contract, purpose statement, 2 examples, and definition for the following problem. So our word problem is rocket height. A rocket blasts off traveling at 7 meters per second. Write a function called rocket height that takes in the number of seconds that have passed since the rocket took off and which produces the height of the rocket at that time. So we already wrote the contract for this. Our function name was rocket height. Our domain is a number, and our range is also a number. Okay. After our contract comes the purpose statement. So our purpose statement, if we think about what we did when we evaluated these, it took the number of seconds that had passed and multiplied it by 7 to produce the height at that time. So what does this function do? It multiplies the number of seconds by 7 to find the height. Okay, so for example, we have our function name, rocket height. And we can use any number that we want. So let's say 3. And I'm going to multiply 3 by 7. So if we want to do another example, I have rocket height. Let's say 41. So I'm going to multiply 41 by 7. Okay, so then we have a little asterisk down here, and it says, remember to circle the changeable part of the examples, then come up with a variable name. So here, 3 and 41 were the things that we changed. Everything else stays the same. And those numbers represent the amount of time that has passed, right? So we could call that seconds. Right? And we need to generalize this because my next step is writing the definition. And when we're with the definition, I have to use the variable, not a specific number. So my function name, rocket height, and then my variable was seconds. Okay. So then keeping with this process here, we were multiplying whatever my seconds were by the number 7. Okay, so this is where we're going to go into WeScheme. So in WeScheme, after you log in, you're going to start a new program that you're going to save as last name lesson 6. So in WeScheme, we're going to start a new program. We do last name lesson 6, and we're going to click save. Okay, so this says click on the recipe button at the top, enter the recipe we just created, then click insert. So everything you see from contract and purpose statement down to definition, we're going to enter in. Okay. On the line right below the contract, type the purpose statement, beginning with a semicolon. The text should be pink. Click run so the computer will read your code. So I'm going to walk you guys through this, but you want to make sure that you go back and type this in for yourself because you're going to need to use lesson 6 again, which is why we're saving it. Okay, so my contract was rocket height, took in a number and produced a number. So example, rocket height, what did we use? 3. 3 and 41. So rocket height 3, tab, multiply 3, 7. Second example, rocket height 41, multiply 41, 7. Now my definition, define rocket height seconds, multiply seconds, 7. Everything's green, so that's a good sign. So then we click insert. Now the only thing we have to do under our contract here, so if we put our cursor next to number, if I press enter, starting with the semicolon, which is right next to the L on your screen, we're saying multiplies the number of seconds by 7 to find the height. What this is doing is just letting you know if you go back later, this function multiplies the number that you're putting in by 7. Okay, so now we click run. In the interactions window, type rocket height 20 to find the height of the rocket after 20 seconds. So on this side, we have rocket height 20. So after 20 seconds, the rocket would be 140 meters. All right, use the rocket height definition to find how high the rocket will be after 5 minutes. Think, how many seconds are in 5 minutes? So if I want to convert minutes to seconds, so 5 minutes over 1, we think our unit conversions. We know 1 minute has 60 seconds. So I want to do 5 times 60. So 5 times 60 is 300 seconds. So the code we're going to enter is going to be rocket height (300). So if we go back to WeScheme, we got rocket height 300. So the height of the rocket would be 2,100 meters. Okay, make sure you have all of this written down and that you have started a lesson 6 in WeScheme because you will need it for next class. All right, I hope everyone has a great day.